So we are working on multiplying by powers of 10. So remember we talked today about how tricky it is because we can think about moving the digits to a different place to change their value, or we can look at the trick of moving the decimal point. So we're going to talk about how we did it today in class. If I'm looking at this number and I have 57 thousandths and I'm going to multiply it by 10, I have 1 10 in 10. 10 times 1. So I know that I need to move things one place. So when I look at this, I can use the shortcut of moving that decimal point. So notice my decimal point is here in between the two zeros. I need to move it one place because I have the 10. So I'm going to draw an arrow where my decimal point is and where it's going to end. Notice that the arrowhead is ending between the 0 and the 5. So I know if I'm going to multiply this 57 hundredths by 10, I'm going to have this for my answer. I move the decimal point one place, which in turn puts the 5 in a different place. Notice that the 5 is now moving over to the tenths place, and the 7 is now in the hundredths place. So I changed the value of those digits. I made them both 10 times greater, and my answer is 57 hundredths. So notice when I move down here to this problem, if I'm going to do 57 thousandths times 100, I know that I need to move things two places, because 10 times 10 equals 100. That's 2 tens. So if I'm going to make my number bigger, I know that I need to move my digits this way, and I need to move my decimal point this way. So again, it's a little tricky because they're being moved in opposite directions. So I can use that trick of moving my decimal point, which will in turn move my digits to different places, which will make their value change. So I am going to move it once. I'm going to draw an arrow. This is where it started, this is where it ends, and then I'm going to move it twice. This is where the decimal point starts, and this is where it ends at my second move. And I can see that I'm going to place it in between the 5 and 7. I'm going to have 5 and 7 tenths. Notice that the 5 moved over 2 places to the 1s. It's now in a place that's 100 times greater. So my answer here is 5 and 7 tenths. So now, when I look at this decimal number, remember we talked about how things get funky when we get to a number that's in between 0 and 1, which this is. The rules change when we get to a number that's between 0 and 1, and our number is going to, our answer, our product, is going to be less than what we started with. We're looking at finding that little itty-bitty part that's 1/100th of 214 and 8 tenths. So we do need to move those digits to different places so they have a different value. They will be worth less. So when I look at this and I think about this as hundredths, I know that there are 2 tens that multiply together to get hundredths. So I know that I need to move things 2 places. So again, I can think about moving the digits. I can think about moving the decimal point. The decimal point will change the place that the digits are in. So I have to think, am I making my number bigger or smaller? And which way do I have to, which direction do I need to move things? So to make my number smaller, I need to move my decimal point to the left 2 places. So my decimal point starts here, and I move it 1. Notice that the arrow is going to tell me that my decimal is going to land in between the 1 and the 4. And then I'm going to start at the 1 and move it that second place. It's going to move from the right of the 1 to the left of the 1. So notice that my decimal point is going to be in between the 2 and the 1. So when I write my answer, I'm going to keep my digits all the same, and I'm going to put the decimal point in between the 2 and the 1. And notice now my 2, instead of being in the hundredths place, it's now in the 1s. It moved 2 places to the right, which makes it 1/100th as great. So that would be my answer here.